The 1990s gave us some iconic cars. The McLaren F1, the Dodge Viper, the Toyota Supra. But there's one car from that era that often gets overlooked. A car that was brilliant, underrated, and genuinely ahead of its time. A car that proved you didn't need a six-figure price tag to turn heads and break hearts on the road. When you think of iconic sports cars from the 1990s, your mind probably doesn't immediately jump to Fiat. But hold that thought. Between 1994 and 2000, a radical wedge-shaped Italian machine quietly revolutionized what affordable sports car could be. This is the Fiat Coupe, a car that was way ahead of its time, criminally underrated in its day, and today stands as one of the most polarizing and beloved cars of its generation. So, grab a coffee because we're diving into the story of how Fiat created a genuine legend that nobody wanted to buy. In the early 1990s, Fiat wanted to do something radical. They didn't want to build another practical hatchback. They wanted style, attitude, something that could genuinely stand toe-to-toe with cars costing 3 times as much. The 1990s gave us some iconic cars. The McLaren F1, the Dodge Viper, the Toyota Supra. But there's one car from that era that often gets overlooked. A car that was brilliant, underrated, and genuinely ahead of its time. A car that proved you didn't need a six-figure price tag to turn heads and break hearts on the road. When you think of iconic sports cars from the 1990s, your mind probably doesn't immediately jump to Fiat. But hold that thought. Between 1994 and 2000, a radical wedge-shaped Italian machine quietly revolutionized what affordable sports car could be. This is the Fiat Coupe, a car that was way ahead of its time, criminally underrated in its day, and today stands as one of the most polarizing and beloved cars of its generation. So, grab a coffee because we're diving into the story of how Fiat created a genuine legend that nobody wanted to buy. In the early 1990s, Fiat wanted to do something radical. They didn't want to build another practical hatchback. They wanted style, attitude, something that could genuinely stand toe-to-toe with cars costing 3 times as much. So Fiat's leadership did something bold. They launched a design competition. They wanted a coupe that would be built on the platform of the Fiat Tipo, one of their most ordinary family sedans. They opened the brief to their internal design center, Centro Style Fiat, and also to the legendary external design house, Pininfarina, famous for its Ferrari and Alfa Romeo work. Pininfarina came back with a proposal that was elegant and refined, the safe choice, the conservative evolution you might expect from a house with decades of tradition behind it. It was beautiful in a conventional way, but then Centro Style Fiat submitted something completely different. The designer was Chris Bangle, and his vision was radical. Wedge-shaped, geometric, aggressive, bold styling that you either loved immediately or weren't sure about. It was risky. Paolo Cantarella, Fiat's leader, made a gutsy decision. He chose Bangle's radical design over Pininfarina's safe refinement. This wasn't the obvious choice. This was betting the house on boldness. The Fiat Coupe wasn't just a car. It was a design statement. We're talking about a wedge, a geometric, sharply angled wedge of Italian passion and European precision. The front end was aggressively sloped with sleek integrated headlights that sat flush in the bodywork, giving it this intense laser-focused stare. The side profile, pure sculpture, a dramatic character line ran from the door handle all the way back, making the car look like it was moving even when parked. The roof was this beautiful, gently sloping arc that flowed into a rounded rear that contrasted beautifully with the sharp front. The rear windscreen was tiny, almost impractical, but it looked absolutely stunning. Small round tail lights, a subtle spoiler integrated into the boot lid, thin door handles. It was design that understood restraint and impact. For the early 1990s, this was weird. And I mean that as the highest compliment possible. When the coupe debuted at the 1993 Geneva Motor Show, people didn't know what to make of it. Was it beautiful? Was it hideous? Could it be both? Yes, it absolutely could be. And that's exactly what made it special. Now, the Fiat Coupe wasn't just a preface. Production ran from 1994 to 2000. And during that time, Fiat sold approximately 125–150,000 units, which is actually impressive for a niche sports car. But what really matters is what was under the hood. There were several engine options and they tell an interesting story. The entry-level engine was a 2.0L naturally aspirated 16-valve producing 150 horsepower and 180 Nm of torque. It could hit 0 to 100 km per hour in around 7.8 seconds with a top speed of 220 km per hour. That's respectable for a car from the mid-90s, especially at the price point. But then Fiat offered something more serious. The 2.0L 20-valve turbocharged engine. Now we're talking 220 horsepower, 280 Nm of torque and 0 to 100 in under 6 seconds. Top speed 240 km per hour for a sub 1,300 kg car with this kind of punch. That's genuinely quick. In certain markets, Fiat also offered a 5-cylinder turbocharged diesel for those who wanted economy without sacrificing character. Underneath, Fiat got the fundamentals right. Double wishbone front suspension with a sophisticated multi-link rear setup gave the coupe proper handling credentials. Ventilated disc brakes all around, ABS on later models. The whole package weighed under 1,200 kg. Absolutely featherweight by today's standards. This was a car that felt alive on the road, responsive and connected in a way that modern heavy electronics-laden cars struggle to match. There's the thing about truly great design. It transcends the moment it was created. The Fiat Coupe has aged like fine wine. 25-30 years on and it still turns heads. Walk past one in a car park today and it looks current, not retro cool in an ironic way, genuinely architecturally modern. That wedge shape, that aggressive stance, that refusal to add unnecessary detail, these were bold choices in the 1990s, but they proved timeless. Giugiaro tapped into something fundamental about what makes a car beautiful: purpose. Every line on the coupe serves the aerodynamics or the proportions. There's nothing added for decoration, nothing subtracted out of timidity. In Italy and across Europe, the Fiat Coupe became a cult classic. In the UK, it struggled partly due to distribution, partly due to an unfortunate reliability reputation that frankly wasn't entirely fair. But in the enthusiast world, the coupe's reputation has only improved with time. Now, despite those 125,000 sales figures, the Fiat Coupe was ultimately a commercial disappointment. Why? Timing, competition, geography. The 1990s Japanese sports car boom was in full swing. The Nissan Skyline, the Mazda RX-7, the Toyota Supra, these cars had prestige, heritage, and motorsport pedigree. They had turbo culture behind them. The Fiat Coupe, despite being brilliant, lacked that cultural cash in key markets. In Germany, the BMW M3 was king. In North America, the coupe barely registered. It was never officially sold there, which meant it missed out on the biggest market for accessible performance cars. The UK market was tricky. The coupe developed an unfortunate reputation for electrical gremlins and transmission issues, whether fully deserved or not. That perception stuck and it hurt sales more than the actual reliability figures would suggest. Fiat discontinued the coupe in 2000. By then, the market had moved on. Compact SUVs were starting their rise. Fiat's attention was elsewhere. The coupe's moment had passed, or so it seemed. But here's where the story gets interesting. It's 2026, and the Fiat Coupe isn't forgotten. It's rediscovered in the used market. Well-maintained examples command serious money. A solid, clean 20-valve turbo model in good condition. You're looking at 15,000 to 30,000 euros or more. Some exceptional examples push higher. That's real value appreciation. That's proof of cultural staying power. The car community has re-evaluated the coupe. Enthusiasts who grew up with it, who played Gran Turismo 2 on their PlayStations, are now old enough to actually own one. The cars that were cheap and cheerful used buys 15 years ago are now becoming proper collector's items. The good ones are getting properly restored, preserved, and celebrated.